Headline tonight involving Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. Just days after images emerged showing an upside-down American flag flying outside his home for several days after January 6th. Tonight, the new report on a second flag, this time at his beach house.
Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas are totally out of control.
Samuel Alito has identified himself with the same people who raided the Capitol on January 6th and is now going to be presiding over court cases that have deep implications over the participants of that rally. Democrats have a responsibility for defending our democracy. And in the Senate, we have gavels. There should be subpoenas going out. There should be active investigations that are happening.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
Put up one flag insinuating the election was stolen? Shame on you. Put up a second flag as a dog whistle to January 6th insurrectionists? Shame on us for allowing you to continue your lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court.
Our next guest, Pam Hemphill, has served time for participating in the January 6th attack. And this is a video that she took herself. She has since blamed Donald Trump for motivating her and others to attack the Capitol. Pam joins me now. Pam, first of all, what did you think of that flag flying outside of Justice Alito's beach house?
Well, to me, there's a historical symbol to it. But today you got to understand it's also a second meaning to it because they will have symbols to communicate. And what it is to me, it's aid and comfort to the enemies of our Constitution.
Yes, Justice Alito was found to have hung a second flag that was flown by the January 6th insurrectionists. This one was an appeal to heaven flag that is also a symbol of Christian nationalists who want this country to become a Christian nationalist country. Now, the problem is that Justice Alito is on the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is the ultimate decider of the law in our land, so his beliefs really shouldn't matter. The Supreme Court, however, does not have their own ethics standards, unlike the rest of the federal court. But a 2022 memo for the Supreme Court staff says that they're not even supposed to have a bumper sticker that's political, but somehow Justice Alito has now flown two flags at his home. The first time he said it was because of his wife, which really didn't make sense since they both legally and ethically are responsible for whatever is in their home. But this second beach flag, we haven't heard him yet complain that it is also his wife. Will the Chief Justice now do something about this? If he doesn't, then you really have to call into question whether or not Congress is willing to act.
Just days after the nation saw an image of an upside-down flag outside of the home of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito in the days after January 6th, a symbol of the Stop the Steal movement, a new photo tonight raising yet more questions. The New York Times publishing images of a pine tree flag outside of Alito's New Jersey beach home last summer, with the words, "Appeal to Heaven." Like the upside-down flag, the pine tree flag was carried by some pro-Trump supporters on January 6th as the Capitol was attacked. Tonight, it's unclear who allegedly placed the flag and what kind of statement was being made. The flag, which dates back to the Revolutionary War, has also been associated with Christian nationalism.
Samuel Alito has identified himself with the same people who raided the Capitol on January 6th and is now going to be presiding over court cases that have deep implications over the participants of that rally. And while this is the threat to our democracy, Democrats have a responsibility for defending our democracy. And in the Senate, we have gavels. There should be subpoenas going out. There should be active investigations that are happening. And I believe that when House Democrats take the majority, we are preparing and ensuring to support the broader effort to stand up our democracy. But I also believe that when Democrats have power, we have to use it. We cannot be in perpetual campaign mode. We need to be in governance mode. We need to be in accountability mode with every lever that we have. Because we cannot take a Senate majority for granted, a House majority for granted, or a White House for granted. Every single minute matters, and we have to use our power when we have it.
The problem is neither Congress nor the Supreme Court is very good at acting at anything these days, but the Senate is controlled right now by the Democrats. So they can open congressional hearings and perhaps even issue subpoenas. If they have the vote in the committee, they should at least try. Because as we've seen in the Trump hush money election interference trial in New York, when you actually have somebody have to testify in front of a court and put it down for a transcript for the world to always know it was said, there is merit to that. So even investigating, even putting people on the record, even if ultimately you can't do anything about it, starts a chain of action that perhaps one day will lead themselves to do something. Because Chief Justice Roberts doesn't want to be the Chief Justice who oversees the Supreme Court at the time of its waning popularity and waning credibility. If you put pressure on him, he might actually do the right thing. Because the fact is, Justice Alito sat in front of 3 cases that all had to do with January 6th. He sat and made a decision about the Colorado ballot case of whether or not Trump should remain on the ballot, even if he participated in an insurrection.
Supreme Court Justice Sam Alito didn't have to fly those flags to be a true conservative friend of the Trumpist agenda. This is what sticks with me, right? Think about this. I mean, Sam Alito is one of the most powerful reactionaries in the country, arguably the most. His court opinions, speeches, media appearances, he could just do that. Why did he fly the flags? He had to go an extra step and advertise. Take that flag in his vacation home, right? It's a signal from Alito about who he thinks he answers to. He knows he's not supposed to do that. He knows any other judge would get in trouble. You can't do that. But he thinks he answers to no one. We'll see if he's right. At the minimum, it suggests a disturbing readiness to keep pushing past any boundaries, as the movement that Alito is clearly a member of looks to destroy the current American constitutional order.
If you don't think it was actually an insurrection, but it was a valid protest and an unlawful transition of power, you're certainly going to decide the case a certain way. He didn't recuse himself there. There are 2 other cases that are still pending opinion. He sat in the oral arguments and hasn't yet recused himself in those either. One of them has to do with the January 6th defendants specifically, because it's whether or not a certain statute should apply to them, whether or not an obstruction charge should apply to the January 6th defendants, and even Donald Trump. The other one is specifically whether or not Donald Trump should have absolute immunity for his actions related to the January 6th insurrection. Chief Justice Roberts should ask Justice Alito to recuse himself.
Justice Alito should not sit on any of these cases involving Donald Trump. He ought to recuse himself. And here's the challenge to Chief Justice Roberts. The United States Supreme Court's credibility is plummeting.
All-time low.
Completely.
Lower than perhaps even the United States Congress, and that's saying something. Mm-hmm. And it is due to the Supreme Court's own self-inflicted wounds. Alito and Thomas directly involved in the January 6th insurrection. Now they're going to sit on cases involving pivotal legal questions. Absolutely unthinkable. And I think that Chief Justice Roberts has to take leadership of this court. He has to tell these 2 justices that they have no business sitting on the court. It will still be able to decide the cases, but not with Justices Alito and Thomas, because by virtue of flying that flag upside down, whether it was his wife or not, it's his home. And Justice Thomas, through his wife Ginny, being involved in helping to organize the insurrection, both have a very direct interest here.
Nothing's stopping him from doing it. He should do it if he doesn't want there to be not only more pressure on him from Congress, but also he doesn't want the cratering of the credibility of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is only as powerful as we, the people, give it power. If you don't think that they are being credible or ethical, then we are less likely to follow them. There is no inherent power that they have other than what the people give them. So Chief Justice Roberts needs to be pressured to do the right thing and make them become accountable even amongst themselves, in addition to having the Senate do it also.
That let that happen at his own home in one of the most fraught times in American history since the Civil War is just It's just sad. And it shows how little respect he has for the institution. It shows how little respect he has for the law. It really does. It's disgusting. It's just disgusting.
Willie.
And by the way, we can't overstate the timing of this, which is January 17th, 2021. Think about where we were as a country, still completely shaken by what had happened on January 6th. And a sitting Supreme Court justice has a flag flying upside down at his home.